Hello and welcome to today's episode of Inside Workplace Wellbeing. I'm Nicole Dinan, Australia's leading corporate nutrition expert and gut health dietitian. Our podcast guest today is Kate Save, founder and CEO of BeFit Food. Kate is an accredited practising dietitian, exercise physiologist and diabetes educator, and has won Telstra Victorian Business of the Year in 2018, Victorian Business for Health in 2022, and was listed as number 29 on the AFR Fast Starters in 2019. Kate shares with us the story of how she pitched her idea of nutritionally balanced, scientifically formulated meals for health improvement and won Shark Tank in 2017. The popularity of her meals that support weight loss, gut health, and body fat reduction exploded to a point where she grew her team from 5 to 63 employees in 4 weeks. Kate tells us how her strong focus on the business vision and her team's unique set of core values helped them steer the ship in times of rapid change and growth, including COVID, share buyouts, and crowdfunding. Kate shares not only her incredible business journey, but how she became ruthless in managing her own time for family and well-being on a personal level. This is a conversation you won't want to miss. Let's dive into today's episode, brought to you by the Good Nutrition Co. Welcome, Kate, to the Inside Workplace Wellbeing podcast. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. I look forward to it.
Yeah, so I appreciate how busy you are. So grabbing your time is really amazing. And I know that we're going to have such a good conversation today. There's so much expertise you've got to share and just your business journey as well. So we'll jump straight in. We'd love to get to know you a little bit more and also get to know a little bit about your business, BeFit Food, just to set the scene, get a bit of context before we dive into some more questions. So can you give us a bit of a synopsis of your journey so far with BeFit Food?
Yeah, so my background, I'm a dietitian, exercise physiologist, and diabetes educator. And in my first 10 years of my career, my business was predominantly consulting and service-based businesses with dietitian services for hospitals and medical centres. And it was out of that I recognised the need for people to have the tool to get them started to use the education. So the education was really important, but for some people, the rate limiting factor to actually getting started was just getting the food in their hands. So that led me to develop BeFit Food because I saw it as a kickstart so someone can start tomorrow if their food arrives. And then that education means so much more once they're on their journey because they feel that they're enabled to do it on their own.
Right. So BeFit Food has become like a food version of like the shake programs. Is that right?
Yeah, so we are a very low calorie diet if it's done in that style of program. However, each of the meals are building blocks because they're made from 4 to 12 veggies, high protein, low carb, good sources of protein and healthy fats. They really are just meals that anybody could eat, whether that's a wholemeal beef lasagna or Italian meatball soup or whatever it might be, a naked burrito bowl. So the meals can be eaten in isolation, but if people want to use them as a program, we've formulated 3 key programs that either help people to lose weight rapidly, somewhere in between, or gradually in maintenance. So there's those options of using the meals as building blocks, and hence why the dietitian support's so critical in our business to help people to pick the right program.
Excellent. I'm sure that has become something that's, really valuable to a lot of people struggling to lose weight, because we know that is a big issue. Even with our telehealth service, people ring up and they might say, I've got gut issues, and we'll say, what's the first goal you want to focus on? And they'll say, I just want to lose weight. So it does always seem to come back to that, or a lot of the time it comes back to that. So it's fantastic that there's a food option available for people at different stages of that journey. So can you tell us how, being the CEO of that business, the founder and the CEO, how you manage the external promotion of that business and all those external things that, demand your attention versus managing the internal side of the business?
Yeah, so I guess externally, as we talked about before the call, I have been in a production series over the last, really 6 months with the group that makes Bondi Vet and lots of other shows on TV, emergency paramedics. And with this particular group, I pitched the idea to have a real Aussie health improvement show. So the idea was, rather than it being a biggest loser that was about shaming and going to fat camp and exercising and having personal chefs, I wanted to help the everyday Australian who's sitting on the couch to get started. So that's the idea of this digital series we've created called 28 Days That Changed My Life, that's on YouTube. And a part of that series has actually been put into a Channel 9 show called Space Invaders. So Space Invaders is a home renovation show. The host of the show, Peter Walsh, he's worked with Oprah Winfrey. He does the decluttering stuff, and he invited me on the show to declutter their health and their lifestyles and their diet and, get them healthy, I guess, on the inside. And then he declutters their homes and helps them get organized. And I think that fit was really, really good because it showed people that once you had a decluttered household and lifestyle and the stress of that was gone, if we could help them get on their healthy eating, fitness, lifestyle journey, then the stress of their health was gone as well, and they were happier.
Well, I think that really will resonate with a lot of our listeners because, as you know, we focus on workplace wellbeing and, busy working women. And so that probably will talk to a lot of them, and they'll be keen to check out your YouTube show, 28 Days That Changed My Life. So personally then, how do you maintain your health when, you've got so much going on, both externally and internally within the business?
Yeah, so I am a mother to two daughters, Chloe and Mia, who are 9 and 11. And I guess that's a blessing because the kids demand your attention. So you have to step away from work. And I certainly was the parent who would take their computer to gymnastics or whatever activity they had. And then my children would yell from the class, "Mom, you're not watching us, get off your computer." And then you just hide, shut your computer. And I was like, oh, I'll never do that again. How embarrassing. So that helped. So your kids always put you back in your place.
Yeah.
But I think because my kids do competition gymnastics, they train 10 hours a week. So I've got 10 hours a week when they're at training, and my husband's quite independent doing his own thing, that I've got 10 hours to myself. And as tempting as it is to work in those 10 hours, which are after hours and weekends, I tend to really give that time to myself. So whether that's going for a massage, a run, going for a facial, a manicure, anything where I get that downtime. And I wish I loved yoga, but I don't. So my meditation is when I'm going for a run or a walk and I put something on to listen to. It literally, my legs move and my brain is somewhere else. And I find that really, really relaxing. I don't think about the activity. I just like the freedom that it brings. And I always do it outside because I think there's something about being outside in nature that brings that energy. And we live on the beach down here, so I'll always try and do it somewhere, bayside. And there's something about the fresh air that's really resetting. Yeah.
I absolutely love that because I think it does talk to the fact that there's no one size fits all either, is there? You've just got to find something that works for you. You don't like yoga, so don't do yoga. Find something else. Like go for that walk on the beach. I can totally imagine that would not work for you.
Yeah. Do you know my absolute favorite thing that I found lately is reformer Pilates, but
Right.
it's the classes I do are quite intense. So my body is moving, but my brain actually switches off. So because I've done it enough now that I think I'm on auto cue, like you can be when you're driving, that I can do the class, but still actually be in quite a calm state on the inside. But by the end of it, I can barely walk. I've worked so hard. So that I find that it sort of meditative, calming state But for me, it's about getting the heart rate up at the same time.
Yeah.
That's my release. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've worked it out, things that
Yeah.
really work for you, with all of your commitments and that sort of thing. It's keeping yourself well so that you can look after your family and also your business. And one thing you didn't mention at the start, but I'd love, our listeners to know is that you actually won Shark Tank. Was it back in
2000,
2018?
yeah, 2017.
17?
Yeah.
Right. And so your business grew really rapidly from there. So I think that would be an interesting thing to talk about, like how you managed in the internal dynamics of your team, growing from a team of like 5 to 63 in a very short period of time.
Yes. So that was literally 4 weeks that we grew the team from 5 to 63.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
would I have chosen to do it that way? No way. But when you get thrown in the Shark Tank and that happens, you need to be reactive. And
Mhm.
I think something I've recognized, because it's our 10th year trading this
Mm.
year,
Right.
is whenever people ask me if there's something you wish you knew at the start that you would change now, all I can say to that is you have to make the mistakes sometimes to learn and to
Mhm.
work things out how to do them better. So, probably the way that I've done a lot of things, I would change slightly, but you
Mhm.
need those things to happen in order to really progress and to learn and to become resilient. Because if bad
Mhm.
things don't happen, then you can't grow and thrive, I guess. So,
Yeah,
have to
exactly. You're learning from your mistakes all of the time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
stepping up to the challenge. So if you don't have those challenges presented to you, then your business probably flatlines. So
Yeah.
you've got to have those challenges and obstacles to,
Mhm.
climb over so that you can hit those peaks. And when you hit the troughs, they're the things that are really building you so that you can cope with the peaks.
So you had at the time Janine Alice as a mentor from
Yes.
Shark Tank. Does she continue to be your mentor, or do you have other mentors that you rely on to help support you in the business?
Yeah, so I worked with Janine for 4 years, maybe nearly 5 years. So it
Mhm.
was only over the last 2 years that I bought out all of my previous shareholders and business
Mhm.
partners. And that was really because I felt that the direction I wanted to take the business was wholeheartedly in changing the
Mhm.
health of Australia and wholeheartedly really backing health improvement for meals. Whereas
Mhm.
I think a lot of companies in our space are there for the scale up in the manufacturing capabilities and the operation side of
Mhm.
it. Whereas for us, we're very purpose and vision led. The operational stuff we think we can leave to third parties or, finding best in class
Mhm.
groups that can manage the parts that are very business driven. And what we do really well is creating a brand that is supportive, nurturing, science backed, and
Mhm.
evidence based that can
Mhm.
really help people achieve their goals as opposed to just the business hitting goals. So, for the business to hit goals, an example of that would be during COVID in the 2 year lockdown for Melbourne, we could have gone to selling wine and cheese and hand sanitizer like a lot of people did in
Yeah.
hampers. But that was never going to work for us because we're for health improvement. We would never put anything on the menu that wouldn't have a health benefit.
Mhm.
So even the opportunity came to us for doing children's meals and family meals during that period. And it just didn't resonate with
Mhm.
our true mission, which is to help people that are looking
Mhm.
for a solution for health improvement, whereas kids should be able to eat healthy meals. They can eat our meals, but we
Mhm.
don't need to make a separate range for them. So
Yeah.
my children eat our meals every second
Mhm.
day whenever I'm busy, or if they
Yeah.
don't feel like a sandwich for the lunch, they heat up a meal, put it in a food flask. So
Mhm.
I just couldn't align with, um, I guess, activities that are purely cash based.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's why I made that decision. And we did
Yeah.
crowdfunding last year. So we've got a
Mhm.
great group of supporters out there too that can
Mhm.
see the vision and what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Ah, fantastic. I just really love that purpose-driven focus that you've got, and that you're not sort of bending just to increase the profits, so to
Yeah.
speak. So you did mention the company values. Can you run us through those and how they have really driven, the support that you've got from your internal teams?
Yeah, so from the day I started the business, those values, even before they were written on paper, were present. And I think from the moment that we did get them on paper, and thanks to my sister who does our HR, she really made me commit to all the systems and
Yeah,
processes, which was great.
that's
But
good.
it helped the team unpack what it was that we had in our culture that was different to other businesses.
Mhm.
And the number one value is for the love of it. And it
Mhm.
just it's in everything we do. So when
Yeah.
people don't love what they do anymore, then it's easy for them to say, oh, have that open and honest conversation. I don't love helping people for health improvement anymore. I want to do something else.
Mhm.
And it's a really good value to use as to
Mm.
whether someone's the right fit.
Yeah.
The resilient mindset's important too, because in small
Mhm.
business, things change every day. The third one is embracing change and growing. And
Yeah.
for those very same reasons that, yeah, you may have to pivot. We open new
Mhm.
channels into pharmacy, into supermarkets. We've got our online channels,
Mhm.
click and collects and retail. So you
Mhm.
really have to live dynamically in the
Mhm.
business and be open to those opportunities. And I guess the second last one is to own it. And that
Mhm.
is very much that if you come across a problem, it doesn't matter what department that sits in or
Mhm.
whose problem it is. If you discover that problem, you have to own that problem
Mhm.
and work with the team to come up with a solution rather than stepping over it or pretending you didn't see it or looking to the side. And I find in a lot of big organizations, people don't step out of their lane, maybe
Mhm.
because they're not allowed to, or maybe it's more because the culturally they're not permitted to do that as well. So I'm not sure which one it is, but for
Yeah.
us, that really instills those values of making sure that people, yeah, anything that comes across their path, they can own that and be a part of it. And yeah, maybe the last one, whatever it takes, and that's the importance of that is. That sometimes just following a procedure or guidelines or whatever's in your day-to-day list isn't going to be enough to
Mhm.
achieve something. And having that in the values means that, yes, it didn't work out the way we planned, but we're going to take 10 extra steps
Mhm.
and we're going to make it work. And we can, so why wouldn't we? And uh, one of the things I learnt off Janine whilst I had her for many years as a mentor was to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So my
Mhm.
team are
Mhm.
very aware that if they back themselves, I
Mhm.
will always back them, whether it
Mhm.
works or it fails. So knowing that if they're certain that's the way they want to move forward, then I'll back them in that decision. And
Mhm.
they don't need to apologize if it doesn't work. If that was, um, uh, values alignment with the decision that they made, then that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that, and those values just speak to me personally so much, and I think they'll speak to a lot of our listeners as well. They're just so different from the usual list of tick the box values that you might see on some organizations. I think they actually really mean something. Just even that first one that you mentioned, for the love of it. You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
I've never seen that written before, but I think that really is testament to why you've got such a strong culture and a strong team, within the business. So, what's the future for Be Fit Food and the team? Is there anything that you're sort of focusing on at the moment to take it, forward into the next few years?
Yeah, so we own the trademark food as the first medicine. And I think for us, we looked at all the different channels and where we thought that that really fits best is in the pharmacy channel.
Mhm.
And that's because medicine does have a place. However, if you don't get the food right first,
Mhm.
the medicine won't have the desired effect or
Mhm.
it'll have a limited effect or you'll need more of it. So for us, we really wanted to be part of pharmacy. So we're working with Chemist Warehouse at the moment. We've got the contracts for 50 Chemist Warehouse. We've rolled out into 6. We've got another 16 coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we're just working our way through. And I think there's maybe even another 20 after that that have popped on the list. So that's a really great start for us.
Yeah.
We are already in some Terry White Chem Marts and some Priceline, some whole life pharmacies, which is great too. And it's just the proof of concept that food and medicine can work together. It doesn't need to be one or the other. And I think with the new weight loss drugs that are coming out, it's even more important than ever.
I'm so glad you raised that, because that was definitely on my hit list to talk to you about, because your expertise is in weight loss, among many other things, diabetes, dietetics, exercise physiology, the whole thing. What are your thoughts on the new weight loss drugs, and where do they fit when it comes to food generally and also with BeFit food?
So I think the number one misconception out there is that any of these weight loss drugs are SL. Well, people know Ozempic. Let's just talk about Ozempic. There are so many other drugs out there that either have the same base drug or have a different name or different actions. But if we're talking about Ozempic, then I think understanding that it's not a miracle pill, it doesn't solve everything. What it will do is suppress your appetite. So you need to think about that from a metabolic point of view. If you're not eating, what else is that affecting, and how is it suppressing the appetite? So it does have great effects in terms of working on insulin resistance with your production of insulin and also your glucagon receptors. And but when it comes to the appetite suppressant, it's slowing down digestion, and it can cause mild gastric paralysis, I guess. So that slowing of the stomach emptying is really paralyzing the gut to a certain extent. And there have been cases reported of true paralysis, and hence when people are just throwing up uncontrollably because they can't digest anything anymore. But that slowing of digestion often makes people feel really nauseated. So that is certainly one of the big side effects. And if you're not hungry, well, we all know, we tell our children, you still need to eat, even if you're not hungry. However, as adults, I think we're forgetting that if we're not hungry, then maybe we don't need to eat. And that's the biggest thing that we're seeing, is people are skipping meals and not actually remembering that our bodies are like a machine that needs fuel, but more importantly, it needs the protein for the repair of the body and for maintaining lean body mass. So what we've seen is, on average, people are losing around 30 to 50% of their weight as muscle mass or lean body mass. So yes, when people lose weight, they do often lose a little bit of muscle mass, and that could be on average up to sort of 25%. But if they are working with a dietitian and they're working with an exercise physiologist, as long as they've put a resistance training program in place and they've got a balanced diet, which is not just the protein, it's actually all of the micronutrients that are important for making the lean body mass and sustaining it and having the brain function and the metabolism function and the thyroid and all those sorts of things, then you can suppress your appetite and lose weight and probably maintain muscle mass. However, it all needs to stop at some point. You cannot commit to being on the drug forever. And the moment that you do stop, what they've seen is your appetite goes back to normal. So there's no delay in it slowly building back up. Your appetite goes back to normal, and the cravings that you might have had are going to come back. So if you haven't put long-term healthy habits in place and you haven't changed your lifestyle whilst being on the drug, then you probably will regain the weight and more. And the reason for more is because you've lost all of the muscle that would have been boosting that metabolic rate. So if you are using the drug, and it's certainly not my first preference, but some people need things like this to get started. So I'm not saying don't take it under all circumstances. If you're using it, then work with a dietitian, work with an exercise physiologist, and change your lifestyle, knowing that the sooner you get off it, the better, because of these side effects. And I haven't even talked about some of the really dangerous ones that have been found in some of the studies, which are related to depression, even suicide. There's ones with pancreatic or pancreatitis, thyroid cancers. There's lots and lots of different things, and they are rare. And some of the studies are a bit iffy as to whether they're due to the drug or not. But if you don't need to take a drug, don't take it. And if you are going to take it, then take it for the most limited amount of time that you can and change your lifestyle. Use it as a boost and seek health professionals that can support you so that long term you've achieved your goals, not just this little window while you're on the drug.
Yeah, and I think that's just such a key message, isn't it? It's not something that you can take in isolation. We know that there's intermittent supply often, and so people are on it, they're off it, they're on it, they're off it, they're losing, they're rebounding. So if they are on it and they do have a, supply for a period of time, it is the perfect opportunity to start to work on some of those long-term habit changes. So that when they do ultimately come off it, because the other thing is the expense as well.
Yes. Yeah.
They've already been working on that behaviour change to support themselves for the longer term into the future.
Yeah, and changing that environment. So do the pantry clean out whilst
Yeah.
changing all of this, and change your plate sizes for smaller portions. Focus on a little bit less carbohydrate, more healthy fats, more proteins, more green leafy veg, those sorts of things. Having nuts as a snack. So starting to make sure those things are around so that when you do come off or you have to stop for some reason, that your environment supports long-term weight management.
Yeah, very key. And actually, in terms of the workplace, the environment is often, a challenge for not only many working women in the workplace, but anyone in the workplace. The birthday cakes, the cookie jar, the lolly jar. Any top tips for helping to manage weight in the workplace?
Well, what we do, if we're going to celebrate someone's birthday, we'll actually go to the super expensive little stores that do the raw cakes and bits and pieces, and they're absolutely delicious. But you don't need much of them either. You're not having a whole big piece of cake. We get a selection of these really nice tasting raw snacks that are far more satisfying in small portions and probably less dangerous in terms of they're less addictive. They've got less sugars in them. They've got more fat, so they're more satisfying. So it really just helps shift behaviors. And it's just something that I think it's worth investing in. If you're going to bring snacks or birthday cakes into the workplace, then bring really good quality stuff. It's like drinking cheap champagne or something like that. If it's not worth it, then just don't have it.
Never as enjoyable.
Yeah, but if you have something nice, then appreciate it. Have a small amount, you'll be satisfied.
And I think that's a great message too, because it's not about all or nothing, right? It's about, of course we want to eat those things, we want to have, we want to have some of those things on occasion, but setting up the environment as you suggested. So maybe like opaque containers so it's not as visually available to you. And that sort of thing in the workplace might help as well.
Yeah.
Some great
protein balls instead of biscuits and things like that. And
yeah, great.
we keep our protein balls in the freezer, so then out of sight, out of mind. But if you really want something, then you go into the freezer and you can eat them within 2 minutes from frozen. But it's that they're not, in hand's reach, so you're not just picking at them.
Yeah, constantly grabbing for something. Yeah, it's really, really good advice. So anything else in terms of, what you're doing internally with the team or anything else that we haven't chatted about that you did want to mention today in terms of, weight loss or well-being or internal teams or external stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, lots of little things. I think the team are engaging with a group called Victory in Business, which is part of Melbourne Victory and the soccer group, and they've got women in business. And we're using the social events that they put on as a way for our team to get out of the office, to socialise, to go and enjoy a champagne and a lunch, and at the same time they get to network with like-minded people, but they're also together. So that's really positive for our team. We're also looking at doing the mushroom foraging with the Fable group. So they do corporate groups for that. And I know my team would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And from, I guess, a internal perspective from health, everybody in our team has access to free lunches and free food. So we've always got, obviously, meals from BeFit Food. So that takes the worry out of having to pack food for lunch. There's always stuff there. There's always healthy snacks. And friends and family, we offer them a discount too, so that if they want to take it home or people are asking, then they can access it. So I think from a workplace food point of view, that's all looked after. And in terms of mental health, then it's probably just having those one-on-one conversations with people as often as we can to work out what do they need, what sort of support, the flexibility. And we found post-COVID that everyone has transitioned back into the office now. And most people say they would never go back to working from home again, and maybe a day a week, but that's their choice. That's not something that we're really enforced. Some people want to work from home, but what we tend to find is those hallway conversations don't happen, or corridor conversations, and they're missing pieces of critical business information that are conversational, that are probably just that positive reinforcement too. So the people that work from home, it's a little bit more lonely. So trying to get the team to socialize is making sure those people actually come along to these social events. Whereas in the past, we used to have drinks on a Friday afternoon, and it's hard when you've got a hybrid team to offer that, knowing that other people are missing out. And so it does make it more challenging. So we're very much enjoy having people back in the office again.
Yeah. I think there's lots of benefits, isn't there, across the board? Yeah, for all of us, and mental health, not being the least of those. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for your time. I just can't tell you how much I valued our conversation today. So if someone was interested in BeFit Food or wanted to get in contact with you, maybe they want to come work with you, how would they find your business?
Just go to befitfood.com.au, our website, and if they want to have a look at the 28 days that changed my life, the digital series there's a link from the website in the banner, and I'm on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to reach out. And if anyone's interested in food for workplaces, we do corporate deals. We work with NAB, Telstra, the Victoria Police, Metro Trams, all of those sorts of organisations to do. So very happy to sort of help out with meals in the workplace.
Wonderful. Thank you. That would probably be very appealing to a lot of our listeners, just to be able to support their staff with that, because that is a big thing, having lunches in the workplace, and, people not having the time to be prepared and then having to rely on takeaway. So thanks for mentioning that. And thank you so much for coming on today. As I said, I really appreciate your time. I know you've got a lot going on with the external stuff, as well as internally. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Thanks for having me, Nicole.
So that's it for today's episode. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Kate, and I'm totally inspired by her passion and drive to keep pushing forward for the greater good. My biggest takeaway from the conversation with Kate was to live and breathe your organisational vision and values, and carve out time for your own wellbeing, no matter what. I also loved hearing Kate's thoughts and expertise on the new weight loss drugs and how to manage them safely and effectively as part of a bigger health focus. We'd love to know what resonated with you too, and whether there are any other guests you would like to hear from. Go on Instagram and DM us at The Good Nutrition Co. or connect with us via LinkedIn. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you liked today's episode, go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review, and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on future episodes. Thanks for joining me today. Stay well. Bye for now. Today's episode is brought to you by The Good Nutrition Co., Australia's leading corporate nutrition partner. The Good Nutrition Co. has helped support the health and wellbeing of over 35,000 employees around Australia with exclusive masterclasses and on-demand learning, on-site workshops and one-on-one dietitian support. Head to goodnutritionco.com to find out how we can help you build a culture of health, wellness and productivity in the workplace today.